Hey tankers, and welcome back to World of Tanks with PR154, where this video forms part of our Back to Basics series with a particular focus on honest completion of missions of the Stug IV personal campaign. Now, if you're already familiar with how the personal campaign structure works in World of Tanks, then do feel free to skip ahead to the next chapter for the gameplay. Otherwise, let's dive into the overview of personal campaign missions. These are accessible from the Campaigns tab just below your battle button. Our first window is the operations map, laying out all the personal campaigns available to us, signified by the reward vehicles that are available from them. However, each campaign branch must be completed in order. The Stug IV personal campaign, which is the focus of this series, is the first stage of the long-awaited backup campaign, which yields the reward Tier 5 German tank destroyer Stug IV. On completion, the next campaign will be available to you, specifically T-28 Concept, which is a Tier 7 American tank destroyer, followed by the Tier 9 German medium tank T-55A, and culminating in the Tier 10 Russian heavy tank Object 260. Each of the long-awaited backup campaigns follows a common format of 15 missions per vehicle class across the 5 vehicle classes presently in the game. Each mission comprises primary and honours conditions, where you need to at least complete the primary condition before moving on to the next mission for the class. Honours conditions are not essential to complete, however they do yield an improved reward. You can return to a completed mission at any time to attempt the honours condition. However, you will need to satisfy both primary and honours conditions in the same match. You can only attempt progress with the Stug IV campaign once you've obtained vehicles in each class of Tier 4 or higher. But what I like about the Stug IV missions is that they are focused on shaping a player's understanding of appropriate roleplay for the class of vehicle that they're in. Beyond Stug IV, however, the missions are intended to be more challenging and will require higher tiers of vehicle to complete. Provided you have vehicles of Tier 5 or greater, you can also concurrently attempt the missions of the Central Front personal campaign, starting off with Excalibur. The missions of this branch are nation-specific rather than class-specific, again comprising 15 missions per group of nations. They too must be completed in order, yielding the Tier 6 British tank destroyer Excalibur, the Tier 8 British medium tank Chimera, and the Tier 10 Soviet heavy tank Object 279 early. We've covered a variety of personal campaign mission completions for the various vehicles available on our channel, but for now, let's have a look at this honours completion in the Stug IV personal campaign. And with introductions out of the way, let's get into our first mission for the medium tank branch MT-1.1, aptly named First Steps. The primary mission objective here is to place at least top 10 by experience points. You need to win the battle, and you also need to have caused damage to enemy vehicles at least once. For the honours condition, you need to survive. Now, this can be completed in any Tier 4 or higher medium tank, but for the purposes of this exercise, we've gone with Matilda from the British tech tree. This tank is a solid performer, not so much in its stock configuration as we have here, but that doesn't present a major impediment to its survivability, other than the fact that the stock cupola is significantly larger than the cupola on the best turret available to the tank. A lot of guns found at tier are really going to struggle to cut through your 75mm armour. You're practically impervious to a lot of the autocannons being carried by light tanks. The heavy tanks aren't much to write home about, their guns are pretty derpy. It's only medium tanks and tank destroyers that you're really going to have to worry about. In fact, one of the biggest threats to Matildas is other Matildas, particularly those carrying the top gun, indicated by the Little John device at the end of the barrel. We'll point that out a bit later. It fires a 40mm shell that squeezes it down to 30mm, which causes 55 hit points of damage, and will penetrate 121mm of armour, which will be good for anything on the front of a Matilda. And if that's not enough, there's a premium shell available to you that'll increase that penetration to 145mm, just in case you needed to penetrate the first tank and the tank behind it in the next village. Our stock 2-pounder pales by comparison. We're only getting 78mm of penetration with the standard shells. We can get 121 out of the Premo, but it's certainly enough to put a hole in this BT-7 art, and that's given us one of our primary mission conditions. But as far as bringing home the kill though, FCM 36 Pack 40 does the job before it turns its attention on the Panzer IIIe coming around the corner for a glorious ammo racking shot. That premium Tier 3 French tank destroyer is a nasty little bugger indeed. Now, at this point in time, it's bad gunnery and pick your excuse. Is it because we're running a 75% crew? Is it because we're playing Hong Kong server with 150 milliseconds nominal ping? Is it because we're trying to shoot at a Panzer 1C, which is one of the fastest vehicles that we're going to see at tier? Either way, we can't hit a damn thing, and I'm not proud of it. And we're bloody lucky that we hit that BT-7 artillery earlier in the match. Otherwise, mission conditions would definitely elude us. You might also observe that the tank is rather slow. Top speed is 24 kilometers per hour, reverse speed 11 kilometers per hour. Getting just completely eaten up by that Panzer M15 there. That's that's its business. But even realising that top speed is a massive challenge, because even with the top engine, you've got the worst power to weight ratio of any tier 4 vehicle in the game. And that's with a 190 horsepower engine, so you can imagine my frustration here with the stock engine of just 174 horsepower. The fact that we're moving at all is a bloody miracle. Of course, we're not really going to move if I keep running into buildings like that. So, can't shoot, can't drive, we are really setting ourselves up for success. In fact, it's just as well that this is an 11v11 game, because being top 10 by experience is one of the criteria. I just have to outperform one of the bots. Although the odds of being outplayed by all of our teammates, both bot and human alike, are looking pretty high with gameplay decisions such as this. Recall that Matilda's got 70mm of side armour. Our standard penetration is 78mm, and penetration does deteriorate over distance. So we've thrown everything in the kitchen sink against this enemy Matilda. It's very unrealistic that we're going to penetrate anything with the standard rounds at this distance, but then again we are missing most of our shots, and there's a strong argument to suggest that even if we did switch up to the premium ammunition, well, we'd just miss expensively. So with the Matilda going dark, then we slowly but surely move on to our next target of opportunity, although by calling it a target, that implies that it can be shot at. Or at least hit. Neither of which we seem to be terribly effective at. But it looks like the Matilda wasn't alone. There was the Panzer 1C accompanying it up that 4 line, and a Panzer 4A as well. Now the Panzer 1C has gone behind a rock, but it does look like we've got an opportunity on Panzer 4A. Swing and a miss, gunnery really not our strong suit at all in this game. But a follow-up shot manages to score us some oh-so-precious damage as T3 Convert sends Panzer 4A back to the garage. Panzer 3C is making a run for it, and another swing and a miss from yours truly, but fortunately FCM 36 Pack 40 is on station to catch whatever's drip feeding out of that 4 line. This puts the scores on 5-1, but fortunately the enemy Chiha is able to bring about an answer for the enemy team, knocking out the Panzer M15 that had clipped us in the city earlier on. With more targets of opportunity presenting on the 4 line, we decide to slowly edge our way out of the city, hoping to catch an angle on Chiha. Of course the Matilda's down there, but we already accepted we can't do too much about that. I'll leave that to FCM 36 Pack 40. They've got 98mm of penetration, certainly capable of dealing with the front of Matilda. Our overwatch of Chiha hasn't really yielded any results. It might have boxed it in a little bit behind that hard cover and given opportunity for some of our friendly vehicles to flank around a little bit wider so that they might be able to get shot on target. Of course, that honour went to M4A1, who ultimately sent the Chiha packing. This starts to bring about the endgame for the enemy team. Certainly no thanks to us, but they do manage to spot the Tier 4 French tank destroyer SAU-40, which fortunately for us, now that we've rounded this building, it happens to land in our line of sight, and we do manage to clutch some damage on it, but it's M4A1 that lands the kill. So with enemies cleared out from this side, that's the end of the game for us, but not the end of the game for the Canyon Run. Now, they had quite a fight on their hands, not all of it we were able to see from this particular replay, but Matilda cresting over the ridge, and it's been able to slowly outshoot the enemy Matilda. Of course, it had all the advantages here. It's not a stock Matilda, it's fully configured, it's got the top 2-pounder gun with the Little John adapter, that's giving it the excellent penetration. I didn't mention the rate of fire earlier, so it's spitting a shell out every 2 seconds. That's giving it a base of 1,639 hit points per minute. So of course, you add a gun rammer to it, that's going to dramatically improve the rate of fire and virtually turn Matilda into a high penetration machine gun. Certainly something that the Stug 4 found out about just now. This just leaves the Panzer 3J, and even on that amount of hit points, it's one-shottable for Matilda, and it sends it back to the garage for kill number 4. So that's the mission victory condition satisfied. It's also got the honours condition satisfied because we survived the battle. The question is, was there a single player on our team that was worse than us? Because that's what we need to complete the campaign mission. And from the results screen, folks, it is not looking good. We've managed 4 hits in total on enemy vehicles for a grand total of 188 hit points of damage, and we did manage to block 70 hit points from the Chiha. But this has got to be the worst game I have ever commentated, and I wonder if there's more of that to come from this series. We'll see. But to answer the question, was there another player worse than us? There's exactly one, ladies and gentlemen, which puts us in 10th place out of 11 by experience, but satisfies the primary mission condition for a top 10 by experience place place. Top honours go to the FCM 36 Pack 40, nearly 1600 hit points of damage inflicted on the enemy and 4 kills, commanding over 1200 experience points. Their damage score was exceeded by the Matilda, 1984 hit points of damage inflicted and 4 kills, although being over tiered had probably chipped away at its experience points take a little bit there. Unfortunately, not a stellar performance by the enemy team, but we tend not to worry about that too much when we're on the hunt for missions. Finally, an absolutely abysmal detailed report here with 29 shots fired, less than half of them hitting the target, and only about a third of those actually penetrating the target. We did manage to turn a profit, as is not uncommon to do down at lower tiers, particularly when you're not using consumables or you're not firing premium ammunition. 8,000 credits off a standard account, and that's pretty well all I have to say about this disgraceful performance. But hey, we came away with the first campaign mission and did so by a nose. So maybe disgraceful mediocrity still brings a sense of a thrill to an otherwise completely woeful game. So I've been putting off doing this one for a little while. I guess I wasn't quite sure how I was going to put that across. I guess perhaps it could be a learning experience for new tankers as to what to absolutely not do. I hope we covered the mission requirements adequately, and for more experienced players, I hope at the very least you got a little bit of a laugh about that. So really keen to hear your feedback in the comments below. Now, of course, we are featuring your replays on our Twitch streams on the regular, and if we're able to get you in to talk through what was going through your mind and down your barrel, we'll even convert that to YouTube, and you've probably seen some of the products of that going up with the assistance of my partner in crime, Manti. So check that out in the Discord link below if that's something you'd like to get involved in. In the meantime, happy tanking, and take care out there.